Hey everybody, my name is Bloodike here to tell you that I have a Patreon, and I told you in the last part of this, but you might not have seen that. And if you're interested, you can go to the Patreon and do the Patreon thing, and on there, I have the next part of Everything Wrong with the RWBY Volume 6 up, and I will be putting the amendments up there early, and I will also be putting Volume 1 up early on Patreon. Of course, it's not going to be exclusive, because you can always just, wait. But that's up to you. So, just thought I'd tell you that now. And let's get to the actual video. I'm not going to waste 2 minutes of your time like last time. English. Back on the gravy train. Let's see what the rest of Volume 6 hold. Be warned, Part 2 is probably the most positive I'll be in this sub-series. So, yeah. I might be the only person to like these two guards because they're so completely, ridiculously over the top that I can't help but laugh. And I might also be the only one who finds it weird when people don't expect RWBY to be over the top, because RWBY spells subtly like this. Also, they have very expressive animation, something that is worth praise in RWBY. Normally, having animation that expresses character wouldn't be anything worth praise, as it's just sort of expected, but this is RWBY. Good job, Nemesis. Told him the last part was the most positive, and start positively here. Also, where did Crow and Oscar come from? Also Maria. Her too. Is Maria's shoulder pad supposed to be hovering that far off her shoulder? That just looks weird.
Now, let's not give up hope yet. Maybe she's dead.
I know I said I wasn't going to stop every time I like Maria, but I just love that line. The sort of dark humor makes me happy. That's not a real laugh. So between the time of this shot and when she shows up, she managed to run all the way from in one of these directions to here. Why not just not have this shot? Don't stop giving me things I like! I like Cordovan. She's probably my second favorite new character of this volume, short of Maria. Instead of trying to do some poorly written commentary, they thought, hey, RWBY used to have a focus on being fun, and made this lady so fucking mentally over the top that she manages to reach back around to the bottom and climb her way back up for the glory of Atlas. Admittedly, however, more straight manning would make this funnier. They only react about once to every 3 ridiculous things that these 3 do. I don't give a crap if they were trying some poorly written racism thing here. I think it's fair not to allow Yang in, given all she knows about her is that she's the lady that broke the leg of a student after their fight was over in the Vital Festival tournament. And yeah, they know he's a wank stain now, but like they'd know that he was before this event. For all they know, this event caused him to become a wank stain. Weiss has some issues, RWBY says a few words, Weiss's issues are gone. Maybe everyone is just in a crack shit with RWBY, and that's why she can instantly make people feel better with ease. I for one know, both from being the one with issues and being the person there for others, that just telling them you're there is rarely enough, and the perfect catalyst for making them bottle their emotions. It's better to tell them they can talk to you. It might seem like the same thing, but it really isn't. Here, RWBY is not allowing Weiss to discuss what troubles her, but is rather telling her that it's completely irrelevant and to put her faith in RWBY. Thus, logically, this would lead to Weiss becoming too reliant on RWBY for emotional support. Something you don't want! Like, the only guy she says, you can talk to me to is Crow, and while he doesn't, that sentiment is a lot more meaningful. It's more meaningful to say, you can talk to me about your issues, than, shut the fuck up, your issues aren't important because I'm here. RWBY is so bland that she gets annoyed when John regains a bit of character. I really like the idea of John progressively getting more annoyed by the web of lies and bullshit cast by Ozpin, getting darker and darker without actually becoming a bad guy. And I'm totally on board with John here. It sucks to doubt friends, but he genuinely believes, with good reason, that Oscar's reliability could be compromised by the lying asshole in his head that can take over his body. And of course, RWBY shouting stops him, but Yang and everyone else shouting doesn't, because RWBY's the main character and everyone has to listen to her. Why is so much focus being put on how good the main character is? What, did Stephen Moffat write this? I also love how John slams someone who has good reason to distrust and everyone goes apeshit, but Crow slams someone who has authority over him and is already badly injured and did nothing wrong, and nobody cares. I do like, however, that John doesn't stop and say sorry, but rather through purely animation and no dialogue or blue bimbo narration, is able to convey that he realizes what he did was wrong, he feels guilty, but he still refuses to trust Oscar and still doesn't think what he did was too far, and that he needs some time to himself. I really prefer Team Juniper in this volume, I really do. They have more character and they seem genuinely closer than Team RWBY. Once again, RWBY is so brain dead she doesn't ask about Silver Eyes, despite standing right in front of a former Silver-Eyed warrior with nothing to do. Maria has to tell her because Maria has a fucking brain.
I turned a giant wyvern into stone.
Oh my god, the way she pronounces wyvern makes me want to punch my dog. No, I'm joking, I never punch you, dear. Also, RWBY seems to have forgotten how she destroys Grimm with her silver eyes. Aside from that wyvern, this just happens to fall right after RWBY asks Maria so she can use her semblance. You know, Maria's got so much personality that I genuinely believe the story of her in her young days would be better than this.
Is it emotional? Like unlocking a semblance?
Unlocking a semblance isn't always emotional. Nora unlocked hers by pure chance. The choice to play an instrumental version of Red Like Roses here is fantastic. It really is. God, I'm so happy RWBY recognized she used the eyes in Haven when there were no Grimm around that she was aware of. When I first watched this, I thought RWBY was just going to forget that, but she didn't. Ah. Mercury is the only person we've seen do worthwhile sparring since Volume 3. I don't count RWBY and Oscar, as Oscar didn't use any of what he learned, and RWBY only got to use this absolutely stupid attack that leaves the entire back of one's neck exposed, because Mercury is the dullard who didn't think to axe kick her.
We'll be top dogs in her new world.
Mercury, what new world are you talking about? Salem's motivations seem to be destroy Hope, destroy, take the relics, so on. In fact, we really don't have any idea what Salem exactly wants. We've gone to around 70 episodes and all we know is that she seems to want to destroy Hope. According to Jin, she seeks nothing but destruction. According to Mercury, she wants to make a new world, which is likely metaphorical and referring to remaking culture and society. But what does she want with the relics? It's clear Osmond isn't gonna fucking use them. That useless motherfucker can just be captured, and then nobody would know about the relics and their details, or how to work them. As such, they're no longer a problem for her. Bringing them together just brings the gods, which she definitely doesn't want unless she somehow devised a way to kill them because she's a spiteful bitch. And yeah, using them could help her, but given she's immortal, she probably doesn't fucking need them. She's immortal. Nothing can kill her, and she can single-handedly take over the world if she was just more proactive. Regardless, I really like this scene because it helps flesh out the immensely shallow villains. I actually really like Mercury, and knowing that he was able to move on from his past without a semblance and nothing but raw skill and physical strength actually makes him sort of relatable. Weird. In fact, he's probably my third favorite villain behind Tyrion and Neo, and personality-wise, he's probably my favorite. And I really like the dynamic between these two. Like, they're not exactly friends, but they are comfortable talking to one another, they have a form of trust, and they still stay together despite their squabbles and different needs and views. It's genuinely interesting. Too bad it never fucking goes anywhere this volume! But it is sad that Emerald gets bodied by Mercury in hand-to-hand and RWBY could get a good hit in. Also, Tyrion and Watts don't do anything this volume. They just sort of do nothing. Is Volume 4 the only one that got it right? Set up villain. Have villain do a thing. Have that thing be related to the bigger plot and the plot of the specific volume. Have a satisfying conclusion. It's not that hard. It's not hard. And they have ruined what I liked about John this volume. The fact that he didn't like Ozpin. He was putting that blame on Oscar and he genuinely had hesitations. Now he's just like, nah, I was 100% in the wrong. The only issue is it'll be slightly harder. These people in the front and back all have the same walk cycle. Their limbs more or less move in sync with each other. Despite the John thing, I really like his reaction to Pierre's statue. He looks up, he's surprised, he gets a bit emotional, but he's already moved on from grieving and decides to leave. Then this lady who I can't hate because she has red hair shows up and forces the scene to go on. At least they got Jen Brown to voice this random lady who is definitely not related to Pierre at all.
I'm just glad she was surrounded by such amazing people.
Boy, you'd be ashamed that the majority of them never had a conversation with her on screen. Red and Nora didn't notice a gigantic fucking statue of their dead friend until they were basically right up to it. I know they were focusing on John, but it takes effort to miss that. I guess we know Ren definitely isn't into giant women. No wonder he likes Nora. You know, despite how I almost hate that they have a little more reaction to Pierre's statue than, oh my god, and that I think they needed it the most given we already understand how John is feeling but not them, this scene alone has more meaning and is a lot more heartfelt than any scene where Team RWBY did anything similar. The way it's written, the connotations of the word chosen, the fact that it's these characters who we don't see saying this stuff as often, gives it more meaning. It's like how in Fairy Tail, when Natsu or Lucy's make friendship speeches, they hold as much meaning as a political speech. But when Laxus and Gajiel do, the fact that they don't do it nearly as often gives it a lot more meaning, and makes those rare few scenes fairly decent. You know, I hope I don't come across as heartless. I'm not heartless. I've had plenty of times where I get really emotional playing or watching a medium. The ending of Avengers Endgame, the scene in Avatar where Iroh and Zuko reunite in the finale, Aunt May's death at the end of the 2018 Spider-Man, the ending of the newest God of War, Iskandar's death in Fate Zero, even Pyrrha's death in Volume 3 got a little emotion from me. Now, it wasn't anything like full-on crying or even tearing up, but it did make me feel something. In fact, if she had done more, and by more I mean anything, or had meaningful relationships with more than one person, I might have even teared up. It's just that scenes like this don't really tug on my heartstrings as much. unless something really meaningful is said or brought up. Like, Stan Lee's death was harsh, but I don't tear up for most of his cameos in hindsight despite knowing he's dead. Except for the one in Spider-Man 3, because it really holds a lot of meaning considering who's saying it, the fact that he's passed, and the fact that it really means something in the context of Stan Lee's life. Anyway, I really like that Nora's holding an extra coffee. It's a subtle thing, it isn't addressed or brought up, but that small thing is exactly what a friend does for another friend. I've done it plenty of times. I ask a friend what he wants, he'll say nothing because he's thinking of something else or he's got something in his mind, and I'll get them something anyway, and they're always happy. I know I'm always happy, because a true friend can tell when their friend genuinely doesn't want anything, and when they're just saying it to not be a bother or because their mind's on something else. Look, I like that Oscar changed from that stupid ass outfit, but what the hell is he wearing? This green is an ugly color, these armbands make no sense, these other armbands make no sense, that weird orange doesn't work, and he hasn't even buttoned up his shirt to look professional, or even to look practical given the cold. In fact, remember when everyone went fucking crazy over Weiss getting a scarf and how it was new designs for the cold season? But no, it's just Oscar and Weiss's scarf, that's it. Also, they bring up that Oscar has issues concerning that he doesn't know how long till Osborn takes over for good, but like, he never goes into any fucking depth about it. RWBY speech! Yes! Yeah! Suddenly Crow is ready to go. Dog! Great writing! You know what would have been better? If he didn't go with them. Then Blake going up to the tower would make sense, and oh boy, I'm gonna bring that up. But also, you could have a moment where Crow comes to a realization. He shows up out of nowhere and saves the day. That way, you can not only have things make sense, but also make Crow a bit more interesting of a character. Have RWBY actually fail for once at speech making that, unlike with Court of Later, would actually have fucking meaning because it's Crow. And you can bring him back from complete jobber status, which is what he's at right now. Crow turning the tide of battle is perfectly within what he should be able to achieve. After these last two volumes, Crow's ability seems to be about on par with John's for all the good he managed to accomplish in combat. Freaking Oobleck was more consistently badass than Crow. Oobleck! He was turned into a joke character! I just want to point out, this episode is named Stealing from the Elderly. That's amazing. Why did they allow Saffron in? What about her warrants this? Why could Weiss get her in, but not someone like RWBY or something? They demanded her alone, but she's not alone here? What's with Weiss's reaction to being like Winter? I thought she more or less worshipped Winter. Now, if Court of Inner said Whitley... Why did you send Blake to the tower and not the guy who can turn into a bird? Not only is it stealthier, given we've given very little indication of how stealthy Blake is, in fact, based on what Nora has stated, we have more information to suggest that Ren, who is according to Nora a ninja more or less, would be stealthier. Also, Crow should theoretically be stronger than Blake and should body at him when he shows up. Blake having to scurry up as a big human body instead of a small bird body is far more conspicuous and likely to lead to confrontation. Leaving a knocked out guard is more of a liability than no knocked out guards. And nobody would expect Bird Crow. It's almost like they forgot he could turn into a bird this volume. I know you needed a reason for Blake and Yang to be separate from the others to fight Adam, but this was not a good one. Freezing them in the block of ice is less of a liability. As long as you keep them consistently frozen, it makes them less likely to be found, or alert Atlas. Court of Him would just need to be keeping an eye on the ship to fuck you over. I mean, really, killing them's the best, but I know why you didn't. Freeze them, get the others, and theoretically, if Blake had succeeded, get out, and then drop them over the ocean, and then they can call, but by then you'll already be there and it doesn't matter anymore. RWBY is pressing the earpiece through her hair instead of by going under it. This would be fine if it didn't look so weird and wasn't obviously so they could avoid putting an earpiece on her. Damn it, Maria, stop being so entertaining! Wait, that sounds wrong. Oh my god, the banter between these old ladies is the best thing RWBY has ever done. But the old granny eating cashews cam was unnecessary. Weiss, why don't you have an earpiece in? What are you pressing? At least RWBY, Blake, and Yang have enough hair to cover the ear. And again, RWBY completely fixes all the Crow's problems by talking. It should have been John. Given his animosity towards Crow in Volume 4 and that he's been having so much in a turmoil of his own, it would have been better. There's a bit of relation between these two in terms of how they're thinking. I know you want to emphasize how much of a Mary Sue great leader RWBY has become, but John is a great leader too. I'd wager that he's a better leader than RWBY, because he's not as impulsive or naive as RWBY's old established character that had a personality, and he's smarter.
How did you grow up so fast?
I had good role models.
RWBY, your role models suck. They're a drunken, angry snarkhole, a wimpy, backwards-thinking, useless father, your sister who abandoned you for 6 months, and Ozpin. He's a dick. It is impractical and pointless for this mech to be standing on one leg with the other propped up when not in use. Why isn't John by RWBY's side? He is also a leader! That is a shallow-ass ocean. Why is Blake's comm linked to a scroll and not an earpiece like all the others? Why did you scream at him and alert him? Makes you seem like you'd be really bad at stealth if you do that. Imagine Blake, she's sneaking up on a guy, and she goes to stealth take down, and she's like, I want you to stop being awake! Then breaks his neck or something. Also, how does Adam see through his headband? He has night vision, not x-ray vision. One allows you to see in the dark, with lights that humans can't visibly see, and one allows you to see through solid objects. Also, why did you waste your moon slice instead of just shooting the ribbon? You're supposed to be super skilled, and given you have a gun, I'd assume you're a good marksman too. Why does Blake do this incredibly moronic backblock and not use her semblance? It amazes me how little the characters use their semblances anymore compared to the earlier volumes. Her semblance would be perfect here. It allows her to do these sort of risky attacks because a block like that one is one of the worst positions you can be in. I guess she's lucky Adam is both super slow and super dumb, doing this dinky stab instead of just slicing out her Achilles or something. Or grabbing the sword with his hand and pulling it from her grip. Never once in this fight within the portion of episode 9 does she actually use her semblance during combat. Remember when she fought Roman in volume 1? Yeah, look at that, so much flashier, so much cooler, so much more unique to her. Now she's fighting no different to how I expect Oscar or Weiss to. Remember when RWBY was excited to fight and really enjoyed it? I missed when she had a personality beyond perfection. Yes! John is leading! Oh, yes, good! Cordovan is apparently too dumb to know it's a good idea to keep firing on this position and leaving them unable to strategize. If you can't break loose some ice and rock with a cannon of that size, you fucked up mech design. This one sniper shot is enough to shake the internals of this mech. That's just sad. Also, the glass wouldn't crack like that. The crack would happen all at once and not keep cracking afterwards with no extra force added. When she's moving, maybe. When just standing still, no. Nope, your missiles suck, they can't break ice. I just noticed that John is using a long sword, a two-handed sword, one-handed instead of an arming sword. It could be a bastard sword, but it goes too far up to look like a bastard sword. It's based on a long sword as well, and only a total fucking moron would go with a long sword instead of an arming sword when he's also using a shield. Yes, it's named after Julius Caesar's sword, but he used an arming sword, not a long sword. Why would a mech designed to face Grimm have long-range shields but no melee shields? To my knowledge, the majority of Grimm use melee attacks. Oscar, you don't have an earpiece. Also, I think RWBY would notice that pointed at her. RWBY, why didn't you attack the glass? Also, this mech must be light as hell for a sniper shot and two people landing on it at separate times to be able to shake and knock it over. Also, John's weapon is really dumb. I've already explained that elsewhere.
What if I hadn't caught you?
She would have been fine, or used her semblance that she can use in the air to grab the mech's leg. Everyone has been nerfed so hard it's ridiculous. Shoot the glass! Why would Crow need to jump onto this when he can become a bird? Ren reacts to his buddies getting shot. I like this. Team RWBY does this too often for it to matter, but when Ren does it, has fucking meaning. And this is actually a lot harsher in attack than anything Team RWBY's taken this volume. Also, in hindsight, a mech of such mass should be built with multiple shields. Redundancies are good. It's stupid to just have one when you have so much space and Grimm like to get up close. This mech shouldn't and hasn't shown the ability to accelerate its limbs fast enough to catch a missile. Also, that missile will explode. Blake uses Shadow once. Once in this scuffle. In fact, she and Adam are essentially fighting with the exact same style, which makes this fight boring. And either Blake got a massive nerf or he got a massive buff, neither which makes sense, because she doesn't one-shot him. Blake also allows him to cut off her jacket instead of just using a semblance. See how much better this fight is when she starts really using a semblance and they start actually fighting in different styles? This moon slice should have continued and sliced Blake in half. If it can clear through Yang's aura and arm after only a few shots, when he's absorbed a lot of stuff in this fight, it should have cleared through. Especially as Gamble's Shroud offered no protection, and even if it did, only a very small part of that very wide swing was blocked. It should have continued, Blake should be dead. Adam still sucks as a character, and anyone who says, he had potential, therefore good, is an idiot. The Last Airbender film had more potential than Adam's character, and look at that piece of shit. It's not a defense to say something is good because of something it never did, something it wasted, and something it didn't even begin to approach within the 60 plus episodes it could have. Now that I think about it, why didn't she use her semblance when he moonsliced? It would have made more sense if she did, but Adam predicted it, swung too quick for her to use it again, and that's what broke Gamble's Shroud. The short scuffle between the initiation of the fight to Blake explaining Moonslice is amazing. The sheer ferocity they both give off is great. There is so much character in it. You really get the feeling that they're both very aggressive. They both have a history and an animosity. Ignoring how whack the power scaling is, the fight and the animation tricks involving the light around Adam when he attacks is fantastic. That's a 10 out of 10 moment here for how well done this small scuffle is. Separate from the before and after, it is amazing, and makes me wish Adam got to have more actual fights in the series, even if he does steal most of his moves from Virgil. The following scuffle? Bland, boring, and Yang stole Bakugo's moves. In fact, she moves in ways we've never seen her by completely changing direction at speeds and having to imitate Bakugo's in timing, pacing, and angle. This moon slice looks beautiful, but I don't know why Adam didn't do it horizontally like he always does. Also, Yang, it really makes Adam seem like a chump when you give May "I'm bored as hell" eyes look. Even if you're gonna pretend he's a threat, at least act like you're a bit concerned. And now Blake has completely quelled Yang's fears in one go. Again, you have mastered the art of telling PTSD in a way that's offensive to PTSD sufferers. And as the last bit, that moon slice would have been perfect time for Yang's insecurities to come in. Like, for example, have him do it horizontally. It's gonna hit Blake. She's going to die. Yang wants to help her, but her fears, trauma, and issues stop her from doing so. By a miracle, Blake manages to narrowly avoid it, but not without nearly dying. And in that moment, Yang realizes that she's not just holding herself back, but she's putting her friends at risk. And thus, without Blake needing to be in danger at the time she fixes her shit next episode, we have Blake having just had a brush with death instead, and end the episode with Yang pushing aside her issues to fight Adam at her best. It's not groundbreaking, it's not even that great, but you know what? It's better than this! Oh boy, that's all I got for this one, guys. Have fun, have a good day. If you're super salty, you probably shouldn't have watched the video with this title, you numpty. I'll see you another time for the last part, hopefully.